Dear students, this week's Dvar Torah is of course meant for you to listen to, but really I have to be honest, I'm speaking to myself as a parent, I'm speaking to myself as a Rebbe, and most importantly, I'm speaking to myself as a Rosh Hashiva, and I'm speaking to your parents and to your teachers as well, because I think it's an incredible message for all of us to hear. This Dvar Torah is not mine. I heard it once from Rabbi Sachs. I looked online in his Covenant and Conversations and in his website, and I'll be honest, I couldn't find it at first glance, but I know that Rabbi Sachs said it, and I remember Rabbi Sachs saying it, and it is a beautiful, beautiful idea. And as I've mentioned before, I'm going to try over the next number of weeks to share Divrei Torah, share ideas directly from Rabbi Sachs, to do my very best to play a small role in perpetuating his memory as much as possible. The question I have is a very, very simple one. The Torah tells us in this week's parsha, in the context of the interactions between Yitzchak and Esav, the Torah writes, "Vayehav Yitzchak et Esav kitzayid befiv, v'Rivka ohevet et Yaakov." Literally translated that Esav was loved by Yitzchak because there was food in his mouth, right? But Rivka loved Yaakov. Now, why was it that Yitzchak loved Esav? What happened? So Rashi, quoting the Medrash, tells us that Esav was incredibly cunning, and Esav was able to trick Yitzchak into thinking that he was a great tzaddik, that he was a pious man, that he was righteous, that he was medakdek, careful about mitzvot. Now, Rabbi Sachs asked, come on, how's that possible? Yitzchak was a bright individual. Yitzchak and Rebecca spoke to each other. They had a beautiful marriage. They communicated with each other. Do we really believe, is it really possible that we think that Esav was completely able to pull the wool over, excuse the pun, Yitzchak? It's really possible that Esav was completely able to trick Yitzchak? Is that really what happened? Rabbi Sachs teaches an incredible lesson. Rabbi Sachs says no. Maybe. But maybe there's another lesson that's meant to be taught, which is the following. Yitzchak recognized who Esav was. Yitzchak recognized the difference between his two sons. He saw the difference between Yaakov and Esav. He saw how Yaakov was Yosef Olim. He saw how Yaakov was steeped in Torah learning. He saw Yaakov's impeccable morals and ethics and values. And he saw in Esav an individual who was going off the derech, who was heading in a different direction, who was heading towards a direction that he wasn't quite comfortable with. He saw a child, a son who he deeply wanted to follow in his footsteps, who it seemed was not following in that path. And Yitzchak said to himself, how am I going to bring my son back? How am I going to bring Esav in the direction that I want, following the direction and the guidance of my father Avraham, following HaKadosh Baruch Hu, following Torah? How am I going to ensure that he's a righteous individual and he grows up to be a leader with incredible values, steeped in beautiful morals? Yitzchak said the only answer is if I give him unconditional and incredible love. If I shower him with love, the more that I love him, the closer I will bring him to me, the closer I will bring him to my values and to my ways. So when the Torah tells us that Yitzchak loved Esav, that love was in an effort to direct him in the proper path. Rabbi Sachs says sometimes a parent, a teacher, an authoritative figure, when they get frustrated at an individual, their natural reaction is to lash out. Their natural reaction is to punish. Their natural reaction is to come down hard on their child. But rather, sometimes the reaction needs to be one of love. Sometimes it needs to be one of closeness. Sometimes the goal needs to be, let me bring that individual closer to me so he will or she will follow in my path as much as possible. And Rabbi Sachs says, or said once, that that's what we need to think about in the context of how we learn and what we learn from this relationship between Yitzchak and Esav. A timely lesson that's always worth remembering, and one that perhaps we can gain a great deal from. Thank you as always for listening. Shabbat Shalom.